For years, American politics has revolved around one man, Donald Trump. But now, even former members of Congress from both parties are admitting something important. This moment can't last forever. In a revealing conversation, former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent and former Democratic Congressman Steve Israel laid out what many politicians won't say out loud.
I think both parties right now are at a bit of an inflection point of figuring out what their identities are going to be. And for Republicans, Trump is still in the White House, but there is going to be a future after Trump. There's like what you might hope the Republican Party will become, and then there's where you actually see from a distance, because you do have some room right now, some space to take a bird's eye view. Charlie, where do you see the party headed in this moment?
Well, the party right now, let's face it, it's a very Trumpian party. And then how do you define Trumpism? I used to have some definitions for it, although they've changed in recent months a little bit. I always thought it was about protectionism, isolationism,
not so much
nativism.
Right now. Yep.
Some will say nihilism at times, and populism for sure, unilateralism. But lately, there's a lot more interventionism and imperialism, and maybe a little less isolationism. But that's kind of how I've defined the movement. But really, the MAGA movement is really whatever Trump says it is. And so the Republican Party has become a pro-Trump party. And so when Donald Trump eventually gets off the stage at some point, there is going to be a real fight about the future of the party, because there are a lot of Republicans who are going along with this whole, MAGA America First movement, but aren't real enthusiastic about it on issues like tariffs or walking away from allies and cozying up to Putin. And I go on to another, questioning the independence of the Federal Reserve. I go down a long list of issues. There are a lot of Republicans who are very uncomfortable with this stuff. And then the question is, what kind of a fight are we going to have? We're not going to go back to where we were pre-Trump. I don't think you can really go backwards, but we can get to a better place moving forward. And it's an open question what that future looks like. And I suspect, and I'll let Steve address the Democrats, but they're also going through a bit of a transition too.
Yeah.
They're often seen as an anti-Trump party, and they've got to figure out what they want to be going forward as well.
So yeah, right now Democrats and Republicans have Trump. Democrats, though, don't necessarily have their own version of President Trump, for better or for worse. There's not a clear leader of the Democratic Party. Steve, what do you make right now? You ran the DCCC. What do you make of the direction of the party, or lack thereof in this moment?
Well, first of all, yeah, we don't have a Donald Trump right now because we don't have a presidential candidate, a presidential nominee. Presidential nominees, top of the ballot, define the rest of the party. And right now, the definition of the Republican Party is President Trump. He's in the White House. We will have what I suspect will be a very robust and active primary that will help define who we are. But in my view, Dasha, I think what Democrats need to do is understand one fundamental lesson, and that is we have won all the blue districts we can win. There isn't a single blue district that's up for grabs. We have them. The path to a durable and strong and resilient majority is winning purple districts, is winning right-of-center districts. And to do that, we need messengers, candidates, who connect with their local constituencies. A message that works in Brooklyn, New York is not going to work in Brooklyn, Iowa. And so we need to recruit and cultivate and support Democratic candidates who can compete effectively in those districts, win those districts, and resonate with their individual electorates without being held to an ideological purity test. I want to win. I don't want to have a 100% score on a purity test.
Do you think Democrats have learned that lesson from 2024? Have they learned it enough?
I think so. I think if you take a look at the candidates who the Democrats have recruited through the DCCC, the DSCC, if you take a look at where a lot of focus and attention is, it's with kind of centrist candidates, left of center to center, veterans, small business people, sheriffs, and others in those purple districts. That's how we won in 2006 and 2008. That's how we won in 2018 to a great extent. That's a recipe.
For nearly a decade now, American politics has revolved around one central figure, Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, he has reshaped both parties, not just electorally, but culturally and institutionally. And what's striking now is that even longtime political insiders are admitting something many politicians won't say out loud. This era is unsustainable. In a revealing discussion, former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent described the modern GOP as fundamentally Trumpian. Not conservative in the traditional sense, not ideological in a coherent way, but defined almost entirely by Trump himself. Dent put it bluntly, Trumpism is whatever Trump says it is. That matters because movements built around a single personality don't transition easily. When ideology is flexible and loyalty is personal, there's no clear roadmap for what comes next. Protectionism one day, interventionism the next, isolationism until it isn't. Alliances questioned, institutions pressured, norms tested. all depending on Trump's mood, instincts, or grievances. Dent acknowledged something important. Many Republicans are going along with this because Trump is still in the White House. But behind the scenes, discomfort is widespread. Tariffs, cozying up to authoritarian leaders, undermining allies, questioning the independence of the Federal Reserve. These aren't fringe concerns. They're red lines for many traditional conservatives.